So my friend Reed asked if I could explain. What was the question? It was about oh yes. So a lot of times I talk about how not so great waist trainers can be for your core, and I go into details of why. So generally, it can be problematic for your pelvic floor. It can be problematic for other reasons as well, squeezing in your organs. It's not helpful long term. And like the physical therapist that works with our ladies really doesn't like waist trainers because of how it can affect the pelvic floor. Thank you so much for the hearts. That's so sweet. Of how it can affect the pelvic floor. So the question was asked. If you have any questions about what I'm saying, feel free to ask. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead and assuming that you saw a video that you might not have seen. So on my TikTok page and my Facebook Reels, you'll find that I give lots of exercises that are very helpful for deep core tightness. And they're contrary to popular belief of like sit-ups and planks and V-sits and things like that. If you are struggling with your core and it's due to pregnancy or just a very stretched out deep core, sit-ups and those things you probably tried and they didn't work because it's not really targeting the same part of the body. And I can go into that. If you have any questions about that, let me know, because I talk about that a lot, so I don't want to keep talking about the same thing. But the question was asked, if a waist trainer can be too tight and cause problems with your pelvic floor, can your body's natural waist trainer also be, can your body's natural waist trainer also be too tight? Oh, hi, Shailene. How are you? Yes, I am going to try to do better about doing lives. I plan to come on here. I'm saying every Friday, but I'm not sure if Friday or Thursday will work better. I'm going to try Thursday or Friday. Really, noon Central Standard Time is probably the easiest time for me, but we'll see. And then whatever I talk about, I will also try to post on my YouTube channel so that if you miss it, you can get the information. Does the tummy tuck help the transverse? I think my deep core is weak, but I don't have much separation. Okay, that's a great question. So it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about. A tummy tuck can help with all of the above, really. Sometimes when they do a tummy tuck, they do a diastasis recti repair. But what is diastasis recti? And that's what you're saying when you're talking about separation. You don't have much separation. They're still going to make sure they tighten up everything because they're going to tighten up like the skin on the top layer as well. So when they tighten up the skin, whatever is under there, it will still look tighter because of how they've tightened the top layer. And I've had those several ladies that have come into my 8-week core challenge who have had tummy tucks, or they started the program before their scheduled tummy tuck and continued it afterwards because it really helps with progress, like healing time, and it also helps with the success of the surgery, and it also helps to tighten the deep core. So for your situation without much separation, the tummy tuck will still help the look of it, but it's usually going to be helpful to work your deep core because they're not going to go in there and literally tighten that muscle. So here's what, for those who are probably wondering what we're talking about, you have several layers of abdominal muscle and what's keeping your tummy looking tight or not. We have the rectus abdominis, which is your six-pack muscle, which is the most popular muscle that people tend to exercise or focus on through exercise. You have your obliques, your internal and external obliques, and they kind of come in this way and this way. They help you kind of twist and turn. And then underneath that, you have your transverse abdominis. Your transverse abdominis literally looks like a corset. It wraps around your waist from the front to the back. I mean, it's attached to fascia, or this like white stuff, this connective tissue. So the muscle itself attaches to fascia, but that deeper core muscle wraps all the way around and cinches you in just like a waist trainer. Okay, so when they do the tummy tuck, they generally are working on the skin, the layers on the top. I do know that sometimes they'll also do a diastasis recti repair. If you have separation here at the midline to where instead of the muscles being close together like this, you'll find that the muscles are actually maybe a little bit more separate like this, or separated even farther apart. Now, if a doctor knows, a surgeon knows that there's separation there, what they'll do when they're doing the tummy tuck, if you opt to have that done, they will go in there and stitch up on either side of the rectus abdominis, and they'll just kind of tighten it back up together, pull those muscles closer back together. But you're saying you don't have separation, so it's just going to mostly tighten the outside, and it's going to change the look, and it's going to make it look tighter, but you'll still probably want to do some deep core work to tighten up that. But it's going to definitely look tighter. So if you're concerned about like whether or not, it will look the way you want, it'll probably still look the way you want, but your core won't be stronger. And that's why ladies who have tummy tucks still come into my program, because they want to strengthen those deep core muscles, since the surgery doesn't actually strengthen any muscles. It just kind of brings everything together tightly. Hopefully that, okay, cool. That's my plan. I bought your program and have a tummy tuck scheduled in August. Yay, that's awesome, because it really, like, when I did one of my certifications to learn what I do, probably one of my first ones, she was saying how it's so ideal to do both. To strengthen the muscles, if you're wanting to have a tummy tuck, that's fine, but you definitely still want to strengthen the muscles. So that's awesome. I'm so glad that you're sharing that. Okay, so going back to Reed's question. So the question was asked, if it's problematic to have a waist trainer tightening you all the time because of the pelvic floor damage with the pressure and everything, can it be problematic to have a really tight, deep core? So we're just talking about the transverse abdominis. The transverse abdominis, again, is your deepest core muscle. So rectus abdominis, your external and internal obliques, and then under that you have your transverse abdominis. With your transverse abdominis, that wraps around your waistline and cinches it in. Can that be too strong? Somebody asked in a question on my Facebook just like 30 minutes ago. And I said, I'm going to get on TikTok. I'm going to explain that, because it was hard for me to type it all out. Yes, your transverse abdominis, okay, let me not say yes. Your transverse abdominis that cinches you in, it can't be too strong per se, but if it's not in balance with your other muscles, then it can be too dominant. I guess the word would be you're dominant. I would say that. Your muscles, it's not necessarily a problem if your muscles are too strong, but if one muscle dominates over another muscle, then there can be problems, okay? So with the transverse abdominis, your deepest core muscle that cinches around your waistline and cinches you in, the problem with that being dominant is it could cause pelvic floor problems. So let me see how I can best explain this. Your core is really like a container of pressure, okay? And with the pressure in there, if you squeeze your center with a waist trainer or whatever, it's going to push pressure somewhere. And the only place the pressure really has to go is down. If you squeeze in the center, it's going to push down into your pelvic floor and can cause heaviness, bulging, weakness in the pelvic floor. And we've seen that happen before. So that's why in my program, when we're working on mommy tummy muscles, we also include the pelvic floor, so that the waist trainer muscle, or the corset muscle, the transverse abdominis that tightens around your waist and cinches you in, doesn't dominate over the pelvic floor muscles. You want to strengthen them both at the same time so that your entire core is strong, and you're not getting too much pressure going down than what your pelvic floor can manage. Because we have your pelvic floor is under here. It's a bowl that holds us up. There's just, muscle tissues in that area that hold everything up, okay? So as you strengthen that, when you push pressure down by having a tighter waistline with the exercises that I show you on my page, when you do that, then if you have strong pelvic floor muscles, it's going to be fine, because they're both strong in balance. So that's a really great question. I really wanted to answer that here. I'm going to download this live and stick that on my YouTube, because that was a really great question. When it comes to your mommy tummy, when it comes to diastasis recti, which is ab separation, or pelvic floor issues like leaking, tightness, pain with penetration, heaviness or bulging, any of those issues, at the end of the day, it's all really a pressure management issue, okay? When you have like right now we can do a little test. I think there's just a couple people on here. Okay, so for the benefit of those watching on YouTube or anywhere else, if you're watching this particular thing, the issue when it comes to diastasis recti or the pelvic floor is really pressure management. You want to be able to properly manage the pressure in your core because your core is like a container, okay? So, for example, right now I want you to kind of get this in your mind and really internalize this by leaning back. So pretend you're doing a sit-up or something, or you're leaning back into a V-sit. I want you to lean back, okay? Don't lean on anything in particular. Lean back and look down. If you see bulging coming up through your midline, and we only have 3 people on here, so you 3 people, I want you to do this because I want to see what you see. When you lean back, do you see bulging coming up through your midline? If you do, put yes in the comments, okay? If you do, put yes in the comments. Lean back, look down. If you see bulging coming up through your midline, it would look something like this or bigger or smaller. Put yes in the comments, okay? So if you do see that bulging, what is causing that bulging is pressure coming out that you're not able to manage at this time. Okay, so that pressure is pushing out through your midline, and if you keep doing exercises that causes excessive pressure to push out through the midline and causing this bulging, if you keep doing exercises like that, that pressure pushing out through this midline that's causing that bulging can actually cause it to stretch out more. Because this tissue here, what happens during pregnancy is before pregnancy, your body could look like this. You have the muscles, they're close to each other, the six-pack muscles, and during pregnancy, everything gets stretched out, okay? And this in the midline gets wider. And when that separates and this tissue gets wider, that tissue becomes thinner and just not as strong as it used to be. So when you lean back and look down, it increases your pressure, and the pressure is pushing out through one of your weaker points. And for you, that could be here at the midline, and that's why you're getting that popping. The pressure is coming through there, and you haven't learned how to manage it, or your core is not strong enough to manage it. Once you have learned how to manage that pressure, you can flatten that back out even before it's healed, so to speak. Okay, so it really is all about pressure management. Same thing with the pelvic floor. If you're doing exercises and you feel bulging or heaviness coming down through your pelvic floor, and that's a pressure issue. What you're feeling is pressure coming down there. And if you can learn how to engage properly and strengthen your pelvic floor muscles, you can withstand that pressure by pulling it back up and in. And that's what proper Kegels help you do, is strengthen that particular muscle and help you learn how to bring it back in, because you don't want bulging coming out and heaviness and excess pressure, because that can stretch it out and make the situation worse. So when it comes to alleviating a looser, weak mommy tummy or loose, weak pelvic floor, it really boils down to pressure management. And that's what I wanted to share with somebody who asked me earlier today on my Facebook page about that whole situation. I saw a question come up. I just want to make sure I answer. Mary Clayton, is there anything you can do while pregnant to prevent this happening, or is it by chance? Oh, great question, Mary. So during pregnancy, we get a lot of stretching going on because the baby needs somewhere to go, okay? Diastasis recti is where this separates, the rectus abdominis comes kind of apart from each other, and this tissue in the midline stretches to accommodate the baby growing. That is a 100% normal, natural process. 100% of moms get diastasis recti if they make it into the final stages of their pregnancy. Some people may deliver early or something like that, and you might not see that if you don't go into your 3rd trimester. By the time you get into the 3rd trimester, the baby's fighting for space. The body's natural way of dealing with that is allowing that stretching to occur, to where instead of the rectus abdominis being close to each other, it spreads a little bit so that there's just a bit more space. Now, what is supposed to happen, I would think, is that after pregnancy, it should naturally come back in, and you should have, it should return back to within 2 inches or 2 finger widths or less, which is more of a normal range, instead of still being something like this. But what we're finding is that 1 out of 3 moms are still having are still present with diastasis recti at a year postpartum. So 2 out of 3 moms, and I don't know if the statistics are still that high, but last time the statistic was done, it was 2 out of 3 moms will heal naturally, and 1 out of 3 of us, I'm included, won't. So we'll have to rectify that through other means, and then which is why I have all the exercises that I have. So the question is that Mary is asking, is there anything you can do while pregnant to prevent this from happening, or is it by chance? It's not by chance. It's 100% normal. Some of us it may resolve on its own, but for 1 out of 3 of us, it won't. One thing that we can do, and I encourage so many of us, because I've had 4 kids. On my 4th kid, I was like, after my 2nd kid, I realized I had diastasis recti. I was struggling. I had this mommy tummy, lost all the weight, was quite skinny, had this boop belly that people asked me if I was pregnant because they didn't assume I was overweight. They just figured I was pregnant because my stomach stuck out. But I had diastasis recti, and it was during like my 3rd pregnancy that I realized, okay, something is not quite right. By the 4th pregnancy, I learned how to do exercises, and it really made a difference postpartum. So what exercises can do for you during pregnancy is it can prevent excessive stretching, because sometimes, I mean, it's one thing to stretch this far, but some of us may not need to stretch this far, okay? And what can happen is when we do the exercises to keep things nice and tight, it can prevent us from going all the way out and having something wider like this, okay? So exercises are very helpful, one, to prevent excessive stretching, more stretching than is necessary. We only need to stretch so much for the baby, but we don't need to stretch excessively. Another thing that helps is with postpartum recovery. I found that my recovery and other ladies who have done my program postpartum, especially if they started before they had the baby, it really helps because the body kind of stays connected, because we do more than just strengthening. We're also working on posture and just learning how to maximize, well, not maximize, but just better manage the pressure that I was talking about early. So the healing with postpartum is usually a lot quicker because the muscles already know what they're supposed to be doing, and they just tighten up a lot faster because you've been working on it throughout your pregnancy. So I found for myself personally, with a lot of women that I've worked with, it really makes a huge difference to do the exercises, not necessarily to prevent diastasis recti because it's absolutely normal, but it helps to keep the muscles tight. It also helps with labor and delivery. So I really feel like when you tighten those muscles, it's a lot of the same muscles that your body is contracting to help to get the baby to come out. So when you're having contractions, it's those muscles that are contracting and pushing the baby down. So when you are working on those muscles, you are getting them ready for labor as well. And then a very quick, a lot quicker recovery period. As a matter of fact, the exercises that I have in my bio, those free ones that you can get started with today, half of those I'm actually pregnant with my 4th child. So you can see me doing them from when I first became pregnant all the way through to like my last trimester of pregnancy. You'll start to see towards the end of that 28-day series that I just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger because I was pregnant with my 4th one. Great question. All right, let me see if there are any other questions or comments, and then I'm going to jump off. Okay. All right, so I am so glad that you guys were able to join me. I am going to try to come on a bit more regularly. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a direct message. I'm probably a bit faster replying to messages on my Instagram, so feel free to follow me over there or even Facebook. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Check out the free exercises if you're wanting some full-length exercises that can be super helpful. Okay, bye.